I think it's going to be one hell of a PvP best of 5, our final round of a 16 match. Who's going to make it into the quarterfinals? In the top right side, the main base of the man that's representing Berlin International Gaming. Give it up for ShoWTimE.
And down here in the bottom left-hand side of the map, in the blue, representing Alpha X America, make some noise. He is Astrea. I think I heard a little noise there, Kev.
Can't believe they're favoring the American. What has become of our beautiful game and our beautiful scene?
Ah, unbelievable. I also want to just really quickly correct Loco. Astrea is a Californian. We have like 3 good Californian players. Please don't take away one of them from us.
Why? What did you say?
Huh? I think he said Texas.
Texas? Astrea?
I think he said Texas in the same vein that everyone, including, you know, Stefano, is from Texas.
Oh, I was about to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, San Diego, right? Astrea?
Yeah, he's a SoCal, born and raised kind of player.
San Diego has good players, man. Vindicta's from San Diego too.
Yeah, he is the second one. And the third one would be Silky.
Alright, both players going for the 1 gate fast expand by the looks of it, but Astrea has built his gateway on the high ground. That's actually kind of funny already, right? This is like not supposed to be that good against certain crazy aggressive builds, I guess. But then the one thing you can say is like it's a bit easier to stabilize on the high ground and then you can still take the game from there. But nobody really wants to expand and then actually lose the expand. But while we talk about that, how real is this really? Or does Astrea have something very cheeky up his sleeve, and is he just gonna 3-gate or 4-gate over here?
Ah, that's a good question, Kev. We're gonna be finding out in about another 60 or so seconds, as that probe is gonna get chased off by the Adept very, very shortly. ShoWTimE wants to keep that alive as long as possible.
Gateway.
There's the proxy gate.
Yep, and it could be more, but ShoWTimE scouting has been pretty good, and obviously if you're ShoWTimE, you're like, wait a minute, you have like 1 gas? Why do you have 1 gas? Who the hell has 1 gas, Ravi?
I want to ask you something, Kev. Inside and Out has just been one of those maps where I think Protoss players love doing that exact pylon placement Astrea has gone for, especially on this map. This map is just, I feel like, iconic in PvP for doing that. Is it going to be something that will be on ShoWTimE's mind to check that location?
I feel like it should be because of everything that he's scouted up to this point. ShoWTimE is going to go for a temporary full wall off just to keep this Adept out. But I really think ShoWTimE needs to start building batteries. Right here, right now. Let's see if that Stalker is going to take a little sneak peek of the high ground. So far, it's not. I think Astrea is doing a very good job with this Adept, keeping the Stalker busy, keeping it occupied, and ShoWTimE is not showing us any signs, other than that second gateway, I guess, that he feels aggression is coming. The sentry is kind of nice, but we really need to start getting batteries.
Adept and Stalker walking their way across the map now, as Astrea is going to be able to push ShoWTimE back. ShoWTimE did cancel the full wall in there for a little bit. The probe tries to move back in. It does manage to get up to the high ground and scouts out another gateway coming down, but not really revealing as much as the Adepts have made their way through the warp in, the fast warp in into that natural.
That's actually really sick. Well done. ShoWTimE felt that he was safe, but he's not necessarily safe. That force field is quite sexy though, as it's going to trap that Adept. The sentry has taken 2 shots now already. If I was this Adept, I think I would try to go for the sentry. ShoWTimE was anticipating that, so it's 5 workers going down. ShoWTimE is now working with a 3-worker deficit, but there's a lot of Stalkers that are going to show up. Another probe will fall. You need to be careful here if you're Astrea because you don't want to get force fielded in.
That is something you have to be very wary of, but the second shield battery is also getting focus fire down. The Adept is taking quite a bit of damage. It is going to end up falling there, but that's all the shield batteries down right now. And remember, you can still warp in inside of ShoWTimE's natural, so if ShoWTimE loses a little bit too much ground, Astrea is going to have an offensive warp in right on the battlefield.
The choke button is very annoying for Astrea, right? He needs to be careful, does not want to get force fielded in. His pylon has already taken some damage, is going to take some more damage, but more Adepts are going to get warped in. And this is the moment that ShoWTimE goes for the pylon. Will the battery save it? The answer is yes. Great battery usage, great overcharge there as well. Can the battery save the gateway too? It seems that the answer to that question is yes as well, because overcharged batteries can save everything.
It really does, Kev. And the shield battery overcharge is eventually going to expire. The gateway will go down, but it buys the Stalkers time to knock out that pylon. Now ShoWTimE very aggressivly moving down the ramp, thanks in part to one of the shield batteries that's placed a little bit further forward. He feels like he can take the fight, but he has to be really careful not to overcommit. Additional Stalkers coming in over here for Astrea. He does manage to secure a kill on one of ShoWTime's Stalkers, but it's a very close fight.
This is everything I hoped for to kick off this best of 5. It is weird, it's hectic, it's scrappy. ShoWTimE does have Blink on the way. Meanwhile, Astrea has only dropped a robot, now goes up to 3 bases.
Look at the probe count though, Kev. On top of the 6 workers that died earlier, Astrea is almost 12 workers up.
I mean, if there's one thing that Astrea is incredibly good at, it's building workers. Whether it's 1v1 or 2v2. I will never forget casting the 2v2 tournament that Astrea did ended up winning. I think he averaged 112 probes per game. The man is an absolute mad lad when it comes to worker production. He still needs to be a little bit careful though, right? Because the moment that Blink is going to finish up, ShoWTimE is going to feel like, hey, I cannot imagine a world where you have quicker Blink than me. So that's going to give ShoWTimE the confidence to start roaming around the map, and then he should be able to start getting pick-off after pick-off, as the final few adepts really have not accomplished a whole lot. Like, I don't think this game looks as bad as the numbers suggest right now for ShoWTimE. I actually think it's quite okay, but he does need to find something with the Blink advantage he currently has.
Yeah, as Blink is now finishing up, that timing window is about to open up, and ShoWTimE should feel a little bit of confidence moving forward. Now, Astrea is getting up that first immortal. That is going to be a linchpin immortal. He also already has a shield battery set up at both his natural and his third. Extremely important to make sure that Astrea is well positioned if he wants to defend against ShoWTimE's aggression.
Yep, and so far so good, and obviously with a decent amount of Stalkers you're going to be fine, especially when you know Big Daddy Immortal's on the way. ShoWTimE is Hallucinated Phoenix, could have given him the possibility to blink it. Remember, you can also just blink away from the army here and start working on it. Like, ShoWTimE will very quickly pick up on the fact, okay, now we are kind of trapping our own units though. He already used blink on a couple of them, and that means one Stalker falls and the second one is very close to falling as well. I mean, obviously this worked out for Astrea.
Ooh.
He was okay with like losing a little bit as long as he didn't lose too much, and does kind of feel like he's just hanging on to the little lead he has created for himself.
Astrea nearly getting a pick off on that Observer, but not quite finding it. Blink is almost finished up here for Astrea, and that is going to be a very dangerous moment for ShoWTimE if he doesn't pick up on that exact timing for the finishing of that, because as soon as it finishes, if ShoWTimE overcommits even a tiny bit, Astrea is going to be able to chase and continue to pick away at some of those Stalkers. Now, looks like things are going to turn around, and ShoWTimE finds his opponent's Observers. Astrea ends up losing that. Those Visions games are really important in the later stages of PvP.
Observers are so freaking useful in this matchup, not just now, but obviously later on as well when it comes to keeping track of the Dark Templars or potentially spotting disruptors and looking for a big shot. As ShoWTimE makes a pretty committed blink forward, but this time around Astrea's blink is ready as well, so ShoWTimE is going to get punished for that. That one did not work out. Astrea is losing a couple of probes to adepts at the bottom side of the map, so that's actually kind of cool. That's why ShoWTimE made that forward blink to begin with. Probably felt like, hey, I think economically I'm obviously a little bit behind in this game. Let's see if I can make 1 or 2 moves that can actually give me the worker lead. And hey, mission accomplished, because he has taken a 1 worker lead.
Beautifully done there by ShoWTimE, making a little bit of offense on both sides and distracting Astrea pretty well. But Astrea, he is not sitting back on his side of the map. He is moving around, looking for opportunities to where he can try and seize something. And he's going to be able to find an Observer for his troubles, for his proactivity. And he is going to be able to potentially find a pylon, a Stalker or 2 over here. He's going to have to back up, though. This is a very large army that ShoWTimE is going to have an easy time defending with.
It's very cool as well that both players are just going for upgrades and charge, because I really love some good old Zealot Stalker charge battles. Obviously, what we see quite often is that one of the Protoss players will go into Zealots and Archons, and then the other one is like, I'm gonna be the defender, I'll go double Robotics Facility, Robo Bay, and then quite often it leads into both players eventually roaming the map with a couple of Disruptors. But I think these are the most fun scenarios that most of the time give us the most amount of action, because this is also not where like 1 or 2 batteries are super intimidating, and it comes down a lot more to map control and who is just willing to take the fights at the right place of the map.
And I think exactly to your point, Kev, it's not just that we're getting into a kind of fun situation that makes one of these matchups look so much like it's going to be a lot of fun. It's the fact that we arrived here with a lot of kind of back and forth that these players were up in each other's faces and still managed to get here in a kind of interesting and evenish spot. Now, ShoWTimE has a lot of stalkers over here, but that's just because Astrea has a lot of stalkers coming in from behind. He's going to be able to snag 1 or 2 kills on the retreat. ShoWTimE leads out a few stalkers, but gets out mostly safe.
When it comes to like stylistic clashes between these two, I actually think that I favor Astrea a little bit when it comes to pure gateway skirmish, non-stop fighting, non-stop macroing. But I do think I favor ShoWTimE in the Disruptor Wars. I think ShoWTimE is very good in that. And on top of that, there is a stage that we don't reach very often in PvP, but we get there every now and then where it suddenly becomes about Stargates, Fleet Beacons, Tempest Carriers. And in those games, I definitely favor ShoWTimE. I think he's a lot better at the ultra late game. But obviously, Astrea is going to have plenty of possibilities to end games before that. But it's very hard to end the game when you don't have a War Prism. But he is going to pounce on this entire Stalker army, and ShoWTimE is paying a very hefty price to snipe that Prism.
He does, but he also managed to snipe both of the Immortals. It is still a hefty price of a lot of Stalkers going down there for ShoWTimE. It is reflected in the supply, 148 to 167. And Astrea is going to try and jump on that opportunity, sniping off a couple of these pylons. The recall is forced out. Is he actually going to stick around and fight? He snipes off both of the shield batteries, and not the whole army is actually there, but enough Zealots are there to scare Astrea away. He knows those Zealots are going to be able to take better trades in a direct fight.
This is actually really cool. Astrea is right now pretending he's not a pros player. We're just rallying units to the other side of the map, and he's going to try to be very active with multiple squads of Stalkers. And Zealots are really funny, because sometimes the Zealots are fantastic against Stalkers, and sometimes they're just not all that great if they just get kited one by one. Like in these numbers, I think it's actually very annoying to be the Stalker player, but with the amount of Stalkers that Astrea has on the right side, that's where it's almost too many Stalkers for Zealots to really make the difference. And Zealots will only be great if they're actually backed up by Immortals, but Astrea has been sniping those Immortals with ShoWTimE.
He's been doing a great job with that, and this is going exactly back to what you were talking about before, Kev. Astrea thrives in chaos, and ShoWTimE is going to struggle in these kind of situations a little bit more. We see a Nexus snipe, and there's so many Stalkers. Zealot flank is going to come in, but Astrea also has a War Prism to back things up. More Zealots coming in from the left-hand side. We also see a Disruptor, a Big Daddy Disruptor coming on forward. Astrea is going to have to back up because of that. Also has to cancel some of those warp and potentials, and he is going to back up, but I feel like he's still going to be happy with the fact that he got in there, sniped off a Nexus, traded a little bit, and got out.
Yep, and that was one of the better fights that I think ShoWTimE could have hoped for, because he had like 10 plus Zealots coming in from the left side. And that is not a guarantee that you're always going to have as a Zealot player. So I think ShoWTimE kind of dodged the bullet there, but I still didn't hate how it all went for Astrea, and especially the Nexus kill. I mean, that's just the cherry on top. Zealots once more are leading the charge, but there are so many freaking Stalkers. Like, it's really hard to chase an army like that unless you land a big Nova, obviously, but Astrea is going to do whatever he can to prevent that. The army right now, 47 Stalkers. We're looking at 94 army supply of pure Stalkerino with +3 attacks.
Never say that Astrea is not a memer at heart. He is willing to go hard on those Stalkers. A big recall coming out on a lot of those Stalkers to help save that Nexus. He is not going to be able to get it in time. It does end up falling, as you see in the picture-in-picture. He cleans up those Zealots, but it does come at a cost. Well played there by ShoWTimE. Both manages to mount the defense by having his army in position, and also fires back at Astrea for once.
I like the timing of the Dark Shrines as well. Virtually identical.
You know what would be really useful in this game, right? Dark Shrine.
Man, great minds think alike. We have a couple of sentries in the mix. Actually very smart as the Nova does connect. And that's a lot of supply falling for Astrea. But he is definitely finding good fights somewhere, because in the top left side, ShoWTimE is forced to warp in a lot of additional units. But yeah, I love kind of the random usage of the sentry if we drop a couple force fields, because there are no Archons to break those force fields. And that means that sentries suddenly become very useful again. ShoWTimE definitely needs to send way more units to the top left side if he even wants to dream about keeping this Nexus alive.
Reinforcements a little bit slow over here for ShoWTimE. The Nexus will end up falling. Can he punish the retreat at all? Zealots are going to be able to push back these Stalkers pretty quickly. And the Stalkers for ShoWTimE blink forward aggressively, but not nearly the tax that ShoWTimE was looking for. Astrea once again leading up in supply by almost 40, and he has been doing a great job with the 1-2 punches left and right, abusing this hyper-mobile Protoss force.
Yep, it doesn't happen often that ShoWTimE is caught out of position multiple times in a 15-minute game, but it really just goes to show that Astrea clearly plays very smart and has great dynamic army movement, and even for a veteran, even for a man they call the Mauer, the Wall, it is very hard not to start crumbling when Astrea is just poking you left, right, and center. I'm surprised that ShoWTimE, if he wanted to play Disruptors, right, and he wanted to wipe in a lot of Zealots, why are we still working with single Robo? I know he's never been ultra rich, but it just feels that if you make that commitment, you gotta be playing double Robo.
I am actually 100% with you there, as a nice pickoff over here for ShoWTimE finds all of these DTs, is going to be able to snipe those off, but it has been the saving grace in some of these fights is the Disruptor potential, and a nice pickoff on the Warp Prism is going to slow things down for Astrea. But you can see the Disruptor count is just so small. Right now, there's literally one Disruptor with the army, and Astrea may very well find it right now.
They can blink on it, to be honest. I think he can easily blink on it. His army here is bigger, it's better. We're going to use an Overcharge very early on. The Nova comes in from very far away, and this is going to push the units back. ShoWTimE does find a little victory by the looks of it on the left side. There is nothing better than casting DT versus DT fights on a snowy map. But I believe that Astrea had enough units to at least push the units away. But ShoWTimE is just trying to keep the economy of Astrea in check. Astrea, I feel like, is setting up a trap here almost. If all of those Stalkers could have blinked down at once, he would have absolutely done it.
I think that would have been a very scary moment because those Disruptors would immediately be able to target fire down some of those Stalkers, but it's still a question they could have maybe focus fired them down or not. The scary situation is evaded, as so are these DTs evading death as they do blink out of there as they see a massive charge lot army. I do want to note one thing I've really liked about how ShoWTimE has been able to change things up since the, I want to say like 4 minutes ago. Yeah, the Observer's helping out a lot.
I just love this. This entire Stalker army cuts through the center of the map, goes to the top left side, gets a cancel once more. ShoWTimE on the other end is going to find some success on the bottom right side. But Astrea is like, alright, I got one base, but that's not all I want. I'm going to get a few more. It is important for the American Protoss to clean up this army on the left side so you can start enjoying that base. But I actually really love the Stalker movement once more. And you could very well take almost at every single base. ShoWTimE really needs to start sending units back home, because at this point the army of Astrea is so much bigger than the army of ShoWTimE.
This is going to be a huge problem. There's even an Observer there. If he really wants to, he can even blink into the main base and start going after production, pylons, supply blocking his opponent. He's going after some probes right now, and this is just because Astrea, with Blink Stalkers, he is able to just move around ShoWTime's bases so much faster. There's a snipe off on the Disruptor. Astrea is paying attention. Robo is potentially going to get target fire down after the Dark Shrine. Love the target fire on that, and oh no, I mean, if you snipe off this Nexus, there's only the one remaining in the main. You don't really want to recall into all these Stalkers.
No, I have the feeling that ShoWTimE does not want to recall at all, but Astrea is going to try to just get enough units up here. This Zealot army is already going to be kind of difficult to deal with unless Novas will start connecting. Astrea's supply block, if he wasn't, and he would be able to wipe in 8 more units, this would honestly be already problematic, as those Novas do get good connections. That is a lot of Zealots falling and a couple of probes as well. The army supplies are getting a little bit closer. I mean, we have just turned this into not really a base trade, but we're definitely racing.
I mean, I think we are at base trade territory because the main Nexus, I believe, is getting sniped off right now. And ShoWTimE, he barely does have enough for another Nexus, so he has been able to get. Oh, actually, wait, he just warped in 2 more gateways. No, he's still mining from somewhere.
Yeah, top left and
top
center
left.
right.
Yeah, okay. That is going to be very, very big. He still has some income to work with. A pickoff over there, no cancel, as Astrea does not have a lot of mining, contrary to ShoWTimE, and that is going to be painful.
Yeah, that's not something you want to do. 400 minerals, 4 Zealots can really make the difference. Can we take a look at the army composition? 4 Zealots, 4 DTs, 3 Observers, 2 Observers. I mean, it's going to be tough for ShoWTimE, but definitely not impossible. Like, DTs can deal a lot of damage if they are able to just get a couple of swipes off, and if one Nova just connects in a somewhat decent manner, then he's going to be the one with the bigger army. Astrea still has a few more probes, but obviously a lot of them are not doing anything. And he does find a base on the right side. And what will ShoWTimE do? Is he giving up on that base as well? I believe that base had the majority of the probes. No, he has actually evacuated a lot of probes to the top left, so that's smart.
Yeah, quite a few of the probes are still down over here, so this is going to cut down on mining quite a bit. The probe's going to be drawing all these Stalkers to the bottom right, and that maybe gives ShoWTimE a bit more of an opportunity to set up his army in position. I love the idea of knocking down the rocks. He knows his army's not quite as mobile. Knocking down those rocks is going to open up the pathways for himself.
Those DTs are going to hurt in the top left side, and I think ShoWTimE is going to panic a little bit. He either needs to snap recall, I don't know if it's available, or he really needs to force the fight right here, right now. Because ShoWTimE is about to lose each and every single probe that he has. Only 2 probes remain. Astrea knows that he just dealt a fatal blow to the economy of ShoWTimE. And I think ShoWTimE can forget about ever having a real economy.
Oh.
I don't think ShoWTimE should... Yeah, maybe he's worried about getting eliminated, right? Oh my goodness.
He tried to recall over there. I think it just got canceled. And yeah, he has one more Nexus that's just begun up in the north side of the map. Now, this is a bit of an awkward fight for Astrea. ShoWTimE finding some nice angles here and there, but still, at the end of the day, these DTs are going uncontested. These DTs are also going uncontested, but ShoWTimE is going to eventually get caught here. Astrea feels like he is seizing control of this game.
Astrea is down to 0 mining, by the way, as well. It's 63 army supply against 82. Astrea can obviously have a lot of income with long-distance mining. Astrea is going for the elimination by the looks of it, because he is avoiding the army. It feels that he wants to eliminate ShoWTimE, but that's obviously a very risky way to play this. Oh my goodness, Fear Dragon, what am I watching?
Observer snipe! Observer snipe!
No more ops left, and 2 Dark Templars are out on the map. Oh my goodness.
Oh, that's going to be big. Now remember, ShoWTimE also has his own DTs around as well, so they're going to be able to add in a little bit of damage to be able to snipe off some of these observers. For Astrea, there's just nothing available anymore.
The only thing that ShoWTimE can do right now to kill Dark Templars is land a Purification Nova. If Astrea suicides on the Disruptor, which he does right now, that means that these DTs will go uncontested forever, and I think that the American hero has done it after an absolutely fantastic first game. He doesn't even need to eliminate ShoWTimE, he can win the fight. GG, what a fun first game between these 2 excellent Protoss players.
The fist pump there from Astrea, a nail biter, game number 1, Kev. This has lived up to all the hype that I've had coming into this. This has been a 6 series so far, and that's just game number 1.
Yeah, it was really good. It just had a little bit of everything, and it started off in such a fun way as well. But Astrea's like, 1 gate fast expand, just kidding. But I'm going for the 3 gate. Like, it's a middle down the road. I am going to be able to warp in a couple of adepts behind your wall. I will be able to create chaos. I'm going to take the economic lead, but then he obviously had a mobility disadvantage because his blink was way later. And he's like, that's fine. I went Robo first. That Immortals is going to keep me safe and sound. But that's obviously not where he won the game, because so many crazy things have happened. This was a great call by Astrea. He's like, oh, you want to snipe my Prism? That's fine. I'm going to literally hug your army. And ShoWTimE lost so many Stalkers there.
Yeah, and it was off the back of that he had such a massive Stalker advantage, and just the realization that he could just double down on Stalker production and say, well, you know, I sniped off enough of your Stalkers, you just really can't compete with that anymore. I can just flood out Stalkers and take advantage of the mobility of my units and continue to move around the map, to continue to find bits and pieces of damage. Was just stellarly done. The DT add-in for both players actually was also magnificent.
Yep, this was obviously a big moment here, because ShoWTimE had a tiny bit of an economy left, was waiting for his cybernetics core just to get a few more units and spend a bit of the money he had in the bank, but those Dark Templars made sure that that would never happen. It was just a wild game, and like, going that heavy on the Stalkers is funny, and I've actually had a lot of games myself throughout my you know, ladder adventures, where sometimes, you know, when the matchmaking is a little slow, I get matched up with some of the big boys, and it's so freaking hard to play against guys that just build Stalkers, right? It's like, can't you just build Immortals? It's not that simple, because the Stalkers are mobile, they have so much micro potential, and they will just run circles around you, kind of the way that Astrea was running circles even around Zealots that are very quick. It's something that shouldn't be that great, but in the hands of great players, it is actually very great, and I think Astrea really displayed that.
Well, guys, we are going to be moving into game number 2. We're heading on to Cosmic Sapphire here on top of the top left-hand Protoss player in the red, representing Berlin International Gaming. He is ShoWTimE.
Played a great game, but not as great as this man in the bottom right side of Cosmic. We're looking at the main base of the man fighting out of San Diego, California, representing Alpha X. This is Astrea. Now, of course, he does spend a lot of time in Korea, but we don't know.
Spends a lot of time in Korea, also spends a lot of time on the European server sometimes, flattering, but he is a North American at heart, and I believe he is going to be proudly representing America in this particular tournament, proudly making his way forward toward a potential career, you know, finish here in terms of just making it further than he ever has before.
Yeah, career best.
Yeah, career best. That's the best is the word I was looking for, right? You know what? It hasn't even been that long of a day yet because I think we're not even halfway done. We've got so much good StarCraft coming our way.
Aiming for a new personal record. For ShoWTimE, that's going to be a little difficult because he did obviously win a DreamHack a long time ago. It was a region-locked DreamHack, but it was still a very competitive one. Had a great final back then against NerdShow, but we don't have to talk about that as we take a look at Cosmic Sapphire, and I see a pylon going up in the center of the map, but it seems like it's a bit of a fake because Astrea is not keeping the probe around, and I highly doubt that he's going to reveal the probe and then bring it back. That would just, well, maybe he was just checking. Nah. I don't think he's going to do anything with it. I think it is a bit of a fake for now, but we'll see if he has any evil intentions. If you are ShoWTimE, you do get a little bit worried always, because you're scouting around, you're like, American Protoss, only one pylon in the main base, where's the second pylon? How worried do I need to be? You know, it does scare you. And Astrea actually waited a long time.
Yeah.
When this kind of gives you almost the idea, like, I know I'm getting proxy. I know the timing of a probe showing up at this moment. That means you're proxying me, but he's not. That's actually really cool by Astrea.
Really beautifully done. Astrea is absolutely one of those players that thinks in exactly this way, and he thinks about how do I plan out build orders or strategies or ways to sort of get in my opponent's head, to throw them off, to signal something, and then move into something else.
That was also very cool there. ShoWTimE showing to Astrea that he's building unit number 3 and 4. It's like, oh, I'm taking these all really serious. Extra stalkers, a stalker sentry on the way. The moment he kills the probe, he cancels those units because you can obviously see a bit of an animation when units are in production or not in the gateway, and he drops the Stargate immediately. So both players really busting out all the mind games here.
Yeah, I believe the probe may have just caught wind of these stalkers, and stalkers catch wind of the probe, are going to be able to snipe that off and also protect that pylon for a little bit. Oxygate coming down as well.
One base stalemate, one base Twilight Blink. Astrea's going to go for the 4-gate Blink Stalker all-in of one base. This is something that my Croatian boy Goblin is always quite fond of, and he has been able to find a couple of victories. And I feel like if there is one build you really want to go up against when you're doing this, it is Oracle into Expand, right? Because there are not too many units for ShoWTimE to warp in. He only has 2 gateways, no power units like a robotics facility, no amount of time is gonna give him Blink as well. So this honestly is pretty terrifying for ShoWTimE, and he does not see that pylon. Are you kidding me?
That is going to be very frustrating later on. It's going to allow for some additional shield batteries, warp-ins to come up. We see ShoWTimE starting to back on up now as he sees additional stalkers joining the fray. The Oracle's heading its way across the map. If he can get devastating amounts of damage on, that'd be big. And already ShoWTimE taking some pretty advantageous trades with the Stalker versus Stalker war. But this is where it's going to come down to. Shield battery already in the main. Astrea is not going to be deterred. He is looking for a kill move.
Yep, it is a bit sloppy for Astrea to lose a Stalker, but he is going to have Blink soon. He has already picked one off, and obviously since that one Stalker is so low on HP now, you can actually one-shot it with a big stasis trap. Went down in the main base. We were safe against Pulsar Beam. We are apparently not safe against the stasis, and that's really going to slow this rush down.
ShoWTimE completely abandons his natural expansion, moves all of the probes out of there. Is that something you still want to try and defend?
No, I think at this point ShoWTimE is like, wait a minute, you are so committed that I may as well go double Oracle. I'm going to kill a lot of probes, and if it then turns into one base against one base, it's great for me, because I've got workers for days, and you don't. I think it's a very mature call by ShoWTimE.
All right, Astrea has Blink now. He can continue to push forward, and he knows that he will be able to safely move back and pull back some of his units. ShoWTimE actually has a lot of his pros still pulled off, not even, you know, mining off of that main base for a little bit of extra saturation and reduced mining. Oracles get recalled as well. Is he going to go for stasis traps?
I think he was just very worried about Astrea YOLO blinking on the high ground, because in ShoWTimE's mind right now he's probably so far ahead, and Astrea is so committed that he wanted to have the probes there, just so if the Stalkers would blink in just like this, he would have a chance. Shield battery overcharge has been activated. A lot of Stalkers of ShoWTimE are getting one-shotted though. He needs to bring extra probes, and he should use the Oracles here as well. One Big Daddy Immortal is almost out, and I feel like that Immortal should be able to save the day. Yes, no?
I think that's going to be very much so the case. The shield battery overcharge is now out. The Oracles come back home, and ShoWTimE is going to end up losing one of the Oracles. Some reinforcing Stalkers make their way forward. Astrea down drastically in supply, but a lot of it is still workers. Can he break through? He needs to do more than just snipe off this Nexus. He needs to get devastating damage done.
Yeah, but he did kill a lot of probes, right? Now it would be 28, and he still has 19 at home, so obviously not fantastic, but it's something they can maybe work with. But at this point, ShoWTimE is like, well, a lot of time went by. I've got an Immortal right now. Maybe I can save his expand, but that's a bit more difficult without a shield battery on the low ground. ShoWTimE does need to be very careful, because ShoWTimE is also kind of broke at the moment. If he loses the Immortal, he loses the game.
The Immortal is not getting target fire down. He's doing a great job staying at that leash range with the Immortal, just barely in range where Astrea feels like he can attack. The Stasis Trap barely does not go off, and the Oracle is going to get forced about.
I mean, there is a second Immortal about to pop for ShoWTimE, and I think 2 Immortals will be a bit too much to out-micro, or potentially... I really thought there was a moment there for Astrea to poke the barrier, which he does right now, but I don't think you can blink on that anymore. Too many defensive Stalkers for ShoWTimE at this point. Astrea is waiting, I think, for the units that he had at home defending against the Oracle to show up here as well, but it's no longer single Immortal, it's double Immortal, and you don't blink on top of double Immortal. Or do you?
That's going to be very dangerous, but he has no other option. He goes for 1 Immortal, he goes for the second Immortal, but so many Stalkers are falling in the meanwhile. He gets back to the safety of the shield battery, and that just might be a little bit too much. Astrea is forced back, and he does not have that natural expansion fallback. He does not have a massive work account. Really interesting Adept shade. I don't even know where those Adepts are coming in from, but they are going to try to find some damage while the Stalkers head over to the main to try and find some additional damage.
Yeah, I mean, 4 Stalkers is the magical number to one-shot some workers, and Astrea probably feels like, I know I've killed a decent amount, is it enough? And I think at this point he knows that it's just not quite enough. He sees the Nexus, he sees the amount of workers, and GG gets called. Team Mauer holds and truly lives up to his name. That was not easy. A great defensive play by ShoWTimE.
The wall mounts his defense against the shenanigans of our North American player. And with the tied-up series 1-1, we are definitely just seeing everything possible. We are seeing the kind of late games, we're seeing the base trades, we are seeing the early cheeses coming out from these players. Truly anything is on the board. That
first Stasis Trap in the main base that we caught in the picture-in-picture image, if that one didn't go off, as we can go take another look at it, Astrea is so focused on his Stalker fight on the other side of the map. I mean, that's every single probe that was mining minerals, all 16 of them. If that one doesn't go off, I think ShoWTimE is in so much trouble. It's so difficult to defend against this base, because you first invest in a Stargate, then in a Nexus, and then the Robo, so the Immortals are so freaking late. But those Stasis Traps, and obviously the second Oracle showing up as well, they bought a lot of time, and even this got scary. But the moment Big Daddy Immortal showed up, ShoWTimE was like, alright, at least I'm safe on the high ground near my batteries. But I still thought there was a little moment where it was like 7-8 Stalkers on the low ground, and he killed the low ground battery, and it was only 1 Immortal. I think that was the moment for Astrea to go for it. Waiting a little bit longer and going against 2 Immortals, yeah. I think he was hoping that ShoWTimE be very broke and would never get the second Immortal, or at least not for a long time. But ShoWTimE knew that that was obviously the most important unit to get.
I hard agree. It's always tough to read the game in these situations, but I think that was the go time moment, and that Stasis really saving ShoWTimE's bacon there.
Maybe there were like a bit of nerves coming in as well, because there was that moment where you saw the Stalkers kind of leaping forward a little bit, but he didn't shoot at all, and then he already did back. It really felt that he kind of second-guessed himself, where Astrea was like, I'm gonna go for it, and then he got close enough that obviously all of them could have fired, and the Immortal and Stalkers of ShoWTimE were already firing, and he's like, no, I'm not gonna do it. But obviously you get punished for second-guessing yourself on this level, but it's just a fun, great best of 5 so far between these two.
So micro-intensive between both of these players as well. I really feel like so many little tiny micro moments have shaped the entirety of these games. But here we go, tied up series 1-1. We're going to be starting up here at the top right-hand side of Tropical Sacrifice, top of the red Protoss player from Berlin International Gaming. He is the German ShoWTimE.
And in the bottom left side of Tropical Sacrifice, we're looking at the main base of the last American player in the DreamHack Masters Atlanta. Make some noise for Astrea. I can't believe we haven't even spoken about how cool his name is.
Max Angel. You know, that just goes to show how incredible the games have been, that we haven't even had time to address it. And these games have also gotten started so early on, right? So the proxy pylons, the proxy gateways, have been coming out in both of these games so far. But This is definitely one of those masters. Sometimes things can be a little bit more chill with the one gate expands coming out.
Yep, but this is actually the first time that Astrea is truly building the pylon and the gateway on the low ground, right? Because in the Inside and Out, he did it on the high ground. He still kind of pretended he wanted to play the one gate fast expand style. Obviously brought out some gateway aggression. This is the first time where it looks quote-unquote normal, what we consider normal on maps with ramps. And I don't know who brought it up earlier this weekend. I think Ben. Yes, we have too many of them, Ben.
That's a matter of perspective.
Oh, come on. 5 out of 7. It's too much.
Some players really enjoy this style, but...
Who? MaxPax?
Yeah, I was thinking MaxPax. I didn't want to out him on it.
All right, but then look at it from the other side. Who enjoys playing against MaxPax?
Well, nobody enjoys playing versus MaxPax. He beats everyone in PvP.
No.
Who enjoys losing, Kev?
I don't know. I'm sure there are some people out there. Obviously, I think it's fun that PvP has changed a little bit and not every map needs to be the same, but I like a couple maps with ramps. I just think that 4 out of 7, and if you include Stargazers, 5 out of 7. Obviously, Moondance has like a pocket expand. There's like only 2 maps that have basically normal entries. I think that's a bit much.
Well, you know what, Kev? If you wish upon a star, maybe we'll get some new maps at some point. That'd be pretty cool.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, you know. Send your tweets out. But of course, we do actually have a little bit of shaping up of this game as both these players eventually clear out their naturals to get up their Nexus. But it is that Stargate that's coming out already finished up here for ShoWTimE, as he did invest in that pretty gosh darn quickly.
Yeah, we all know that Astrea is not the biggest fan of Phoenix battles. He's been pretty vocal about that in interviews in the past as well, where he's like, I don't think I'm bad at it. It just feels kind of random, and I don't really know why I win, or I don't really know why I lose. So it does not surprise me that he is avoiding it. I don't think that ShoWTimE is necessarily in love with Phoenix battles either. To be honest, very few people on this planet are. They're kind of fun to watch sometimes, and once more, I do think MaxPax likes them, but I don't think there are too many Protoses out there. So Astrea will gladly just play double gate into a Twilight Council to get some mobility and be able to deal with oracles and take some map control down the line. And ShoWTimE is just going to go oracle into Twilight, where he's like, I don't want to build Phoenix if you're not building any Phoenix, but I'll gladly be at least the oracle player because I believe I can get value out of my 2 oracles.
I love what a testament it is that when Rotterdam is saying, no, there's not that many people that enjoy Phoenix battles, and it truly does mean there's probably not that many people who are enjoying the Phoenix Wars in PvP, and I think most Protoss players will agree with you there.
They're just so brutal because it's so difficult to scout, and
often end in seconds.
Yeah, and often if you do scout, you get punished by the guy that wasn't scouting, was just cranking out Phoenixes, and he's like, I got you, I got 2 more. And then you're like, all right, I'm not going to move out anymore, and then you DTs attack you, you're like, damn it, or the other guy went 1 Stargate Fleet Beacon, it's like, oh, just make a sentry. It's like, you can't just make a sentry, that means you have a Phoenix less, that means you lose the Phoenix battle.
Hashtag got him, hashtag outplayed, hashtag Fortnite, let's go.
Yeah, no, it's brutal to play, and it requires a lot of skill, but there's obviously some guessing element to it as well. And I cannot blame a lot of the pros for not being ultra fond of it. And to be honest, a lot of the casuals are neither. I do want to point out that Oracle defense by Astrea there was spot on. I believe he lost maybe a single probe, but he dealt so much damage to these Oracles that he doesn't really have to worry too much about them right now. And that's always a very sweet feeling. If you're the one who's playing without a Stargate, you're like, alright, I know that technically you have the slightly better build because you can expand very quick, I cannot move out, but I just want to make sure I don't lose too many probes, and so far so good. But ShoWTimE is doing non-ShoWTimE things and building a gateway on the other side of the map of 2 bases, Fear Dragon.
That he is getting ready for a little bit of ramped up aggression. His blink is still a ways away from finishing. He still has more gateways on the way, but not a crazy number or anything. So I do wonder if he's setting up for something much, much later. This is just going to be a little bit of a opportunity he's setting up for later?
I think it's actually going to be relatively early aggression coming out of Mr. Mauer, and it makes some sense, because as long as he has the Oracles, what are the Oracles going to do? They're going to force Astrea to have a couple Stalkers in his natural mineral line. They're going to force Astrea to have a couple Stalkers in the main base, and if ShoWTimE can then just pounce with his entire army on 60-70% of the army of Astrea, then there is obviously a good chance that ShoWTimE is going to find a lot of success. Oh no, Astrea messes up the blink, so now he only gets 3 Stalkers in the main base, as he has the blink advantage, and now his units are getting caught as well. Astrea is derping a little bit here, Fear Dragon.
Oh, another Stalker ends up falling, and another Stalker ends up falling. This is a fantastic start for ShoWTimE, and like you were saying, a little bit of a dirt moment there for Astrea, maybe like you were saying, feeling some of those nerves on this main stage, the furthest he's ever made it in a DreamHack, and now going to be potentially taking some damage on another Stalker right before a fight could potentially break out as a shield battery is going to get started there.
I am expecting ShoWTimE to definitely push the issue a little bit. I think that was already his plan with the gateway and the oracles, but now he's got even more reason to do so because he picked off a couple of Stalkers. He has a stasis trap here as well. I don't know if he's thinking about a blink into the main base. I personally think that'd be a bit weird, but he is going to go for it. Finds a pylon, is going to take the fight against a couple of Stalkers at first. Not the way that I would have personally used the oracles, but we all know that ShoWTimE is an expert and he knows what he's doing.
Is going to be able to snag a little something there.
Oh, Big Daddy Immortal.
Big Daddy Immortal over at the third is going to be able to push this army back, and got to be careful because, yeah, Astrea is going to have blink off cooldown in a second. He's able to get out of there alive.
Stasis was revealed by the Observer, so Astrea knew. I mean, Astrea now survives what should have been a very scary part of the game where the Oracles have so much potential and you're not exactly sure where to put all of your units, and ShoWTimE could have just gone all out on units because he had a much later forge. And does ShoWTimE even have a robo? I feel like he hasn't even built a robo yet, right?
No, I don't believe so, and there's no robo, in fact, at all.
I think ShoWTimE could have played it out in a different manner, where he probably would have found some more success. But now Astrea weathers the storm, and we can just completely forget about that little slip-up where he derped and one of the Stalkers did not make the jump into the main base. ShoWTimE does still have the Oracles, is going to try to at least get the worker counts a bit more in his favor, but one of the two Oracles does get picked off.
Yeah, target fire on the weakened Oracle. I also want to mention, Kev, you just brought up no robo. Well, I'll tell you what else there isn't. There is, in fact, no other form of detection besides the Oracles, one of them going down in a Dark Shrine about halfway done. That is going to be something ShoWTimE's got to have it on his mind, right? You don't really go into the mid-game or even late game of PvP without eventually getting a robo.
No, he's getting a cannon. Can we take a look at where ShoWTimE is building his one cannon? Okay, in the natural, but that's obviously still not enough, right? Because if DTs would run into the third base, you could be in a bit of a pickle, even if we're going to get a cannon there as well. So I guess he's going to dodge that bullet, and we will just continue with this game as ShoWTimE is this time a little bit more active with the Stalker. Snipes the Warp Prism immediately. Well done.
Yeah, big snipe off, especially since I was timed out to be on the other side of the map when the Dark Shrine finished up. So it could potentially open up the opportunity for Astrea to warp in. 3-4 DTs can still kill a cannon pretty gosh darn quickly. But we'll see probably a little bit slower of a warp in, as a single DT is going to be all that Astrea is committing to for now. ShoWTimE should be prepared for that and should be able to focus in on his own Stalker aggression on this side of the map.
We tried to get a stasis trap up there, I believe, but I think the cannon shut it down. ShoWTimE is a bit more aggro this game, and Astrea is maybe feeling that he should defend a bit more because he's like, I think I have a good economy. I remember you didn't have too many probes, your third Nexus was later. We have warped in a couple of Dark Templars, and ShoWTimE is going to warp in his fifth base, and the DDs could absolutely do something about it because the Stalkers are far out of position, and I don't know where the Oracle is. It's stuck on the top left side, so if the DTs want, they can absolutely get a cancel on the fifth base at least. Yeah,
there was a cannon getting started up over there. You maybe just be waiting for the other two DTs to make their way over there to get a nice big surprise of DPS, try and go for a kill there. Oracle's gonna have a lot of energy to work through to get too many kills there. DT's actually on the retreat for both of these bases.
Almost felt like an F2.
Yeah, was there even a cannon at that north base?
Yeah.
Ah, okay, there was. Yeah, and it's in range of the shield battery. It's going to be difficult to take that out. We see a handful of these Zells getting caught as ShoWTimE is just prepared everywhere on every single front right now for whatever Astrea is kind of maneuvering around with. But this is no longer just a handful of DTs here or there. This is the entire force of Astrea getting ready to hit with the +2 weapons upgrade well over ShoWTimE.
Yep, he had a much quicker forge, and that is an advantage that he would obviously love to work with. This time around, it's Astrea, right, who's actually getting quite a few Zealots. He's got 2 Immortals in the mix, and I kind of feel that was the one thing that ShoWTimE was really missing. He did have Immortals, but Astrea just kept picking them off in that first game. Zealots can be very good against Stalkers, but they do need some backup, because Immortals, they simply deal way too much power to ignore them. But if you try to kill the Immortals, that's where the Zealots can really make the difference. So I kind of like the army composition from Astrea so far. As a couple of DTs with Blink get on top of the first cannon on the top side of the map.
Stalker's going to blink forward. They snipe off the shield battery, but ShoWTimE is going to have a rebuttal as these Zealots come charging on forward. Astrea responds with his own charge upgrade and is going to be able to snipe off a little bit more of those Big Daddy Immortals in the back lines, continuing to whittle away at this army of ShoWTimE. At the same time, he has a couple of these probes also going down for ShoWTimE on the north side of the map, but the Prism was on the north side. That's where those harassment units came from before. Now, reinforcements finally arrive for Astrea.
ShoWTimE is like, man, that mass stalker looked pretty good. I'm going to give it a shot as well. So I was like, well, I guess Disruptors are pretty good. I'm going to go for the Disruptors. He does drop the second Robo immediately, which I do like. We have 39 stalkers on the side of ShoWTimE. Astrea only working with 18, but I still kind of like Astrea's army. And I also really like the way that he microed his army there. The Zealots, they charge forward and then he brought them back. They charge forward again, he brought them back. He did not want to make it easy for ShoWTimE to just stand there and blink stalkers back one by one towards the battery, supported by cannons. He's like, nope, that's how I know I'm going to lose all my Zealots without getting anything done. I want to make sure that I always have a few Zealots left over. You cannot possibly blink on top of my Immortals.
Yeah, but still well done there by ShoWTimE to ensure that he was able to keep that base up. And even the top base where those DTs were getting a bit of worker damage done, he's kept the base alive, got those Zealot reinforcements in. Not going to be so lucky this time, though, as Astrea jumps in on that Nexus, finds the kill, and ShoWTimE maybe can try and catch this army in the retreat, but there are a couple of Archons mixed in now, and a very awkward angle. ShoWTimE cannot really pounce on that army.
Yep, ShoWTimE has no Archons in the mix, and he's gonna bring in all the Zealots, but Archons are so freaking good against Zealots in fights like this, especially if you support your own Archons by just reducing the surface area. Stalkers can't really gun them down one by one, because that's where the Immortals can really make the difference. ShoWTimE is still gonna take the fight. I feel like if he wants to take the fight, he needs to take out the Prism. He's not taking out the Prism. Both players kind of running away there towards the end, but I think the longer that would have gone with the Prism there, the better it would be for Astrea, who's going to try to get lucky one more time with DTs, but this time around the Prism did get picked off.
That is a very important pickoff that he finally does end up catching, but the Nexus in the bottom right also gets cancelled, so I think Astrea, now effectively having picked off two bases, one of them with building and the other one was actually mining, is going to be pretty happy with how all these trades have been going, and he still has more DTs getting ready for another run by. A blink onto that cannon is going to keep it from detecting these units.
Wow, that's so much damage immediately. We are going to use recall. A few Dark Templars will pay the price, but great play there by both players. Astrea with the blink in, doesn't just get the cannon, but gets 6 probes in a single swipe of all those DTs. Then realized that the DTs were in trouble, realized they are expensive, recall them out immediately. But he is the one who has successfully made it up to Disruptors, and it does not happen often that I see a 14-minute game of ShoWTimE where the Blue Protoss, or his opponent, has a couple of Disruptors in double robo and ShoWTimE does not. It's not because he didn't want to, it's just because Astrea has been really good and he's been able to get there a bit easier than ShoWTimE is. The Dark Templars, though, they do fall.
Yeah, but at the same time, Astrea is clearly pushing forward. Disruptor does get picked off. Another Disruptor comes forward, and all those Stalkers should be on blink cooldown. But the Disruptor shot does come out a little bit on the later end of things. A couple of Observers getting picked off for ShoWTimE on the tail end of this, but he is finding quite a few Stalkers on the retreat. He's going to have to be forced back as more Disruptors come rallying on forward, but ShoWTimE is finding a lot of really good angles on this army.
Yep, he is able to get on top of each and every single Disruptor, even the other ones that came in as reinforcements. And ShoWTimE brought over the other army as well that took care of the DTs earlier. And that should have been a very difficult fight for ShoWTimE, and it turned into a victory instead. Disruptors are very good, but if it's only 1 or 2, there's obviously a way around it. I think ShoWTimE just displayed that in an excellent manner. Disruptor number 3 and 4, they just showed up a little bit too late. So it basically just became once more only 2 Disruptors to worry about. And I think Astrea definitely dropped the ball there a little bit, had an opportunity to make something great happen for himself. Instead, it's ShoWTimE who took a couple of victories, but Astrea still has a lot of units. He's going to try to make short work of this Nexus. Recall has been activated, and that's a pretty big army that gets recalled. Will the Dark Templars be able to escape?
Yeah, DTs are going to have a hard time getting out of here alive, but they do still trade versus a lot of Stalkers, and now we have Astrea hitting another Nexus during all of that. So yes, losing a lot of expensive units with his DTs, as well as a handful of those Zealots that are a bit more expendable, but at the same time, picking off 2 Nexus is a massive win that actually might force ShoWTimE to go into fights he really doesn't want to have to take against Disruptors.
Astrea got so good, man. Like, it's actually crazy how good he has gotten. We obviously saw him have a great run at the Home Story Cup earlier this year. Was the best performing NA player back then as well. Made it into the top 3. That was a fantastic run. But he is doing some great work here as well. In the round of 16 of the DreamHack Masters Atlanta. Top left side, ShoWTimE still battling and obviously far from out of it. But I am just super impressed by how well Astrea has been playing. Not just this game, but obviously throughout the entire tournament. But this is not gimmicky, this is not silly. He is just playing some straight up very good StarCraft.
Disruptor is zoning out these Stalkers. A big blink forward. ShoWTimE going for the Hail Mary play. He does manage to snipe off all the active Disruptor shots, but he's losing all of his probes to the Zealots during this. He is losing all of his Stalkers to his opponents. Finally, some more reinforcing Stalkers come forward, but the damage has been done. The probe line is just completely decimated at this point. And Astrea, as soon as he comes in with some reinforcements, ShoWTimE's going to need an absolute miracle to pull this game back.
Yep, ShoWTimE does get the best of those two disruptors shooting at one another, so that is a little victory, but Astrea has been able to find some great victories, and the most impressive thing about Astrea's gameplay is not just how active he is, but it's always the macro behind it. You look at the minimap, he's consuming the entire bottom side of the map, and we all know that ShoWTimE is not a slow player, and ShoWTimE is normally the one finding damage, but he's so busy in defending against a very dynamic army movement of Astrea that Astrea is just able to expand, and the only thing that ShoWTimE can do is defend, and we know that he likes that, but he is not defending perfectly. He's taking damage left, right and center, and Astrea is just growing bigger and better and is playing one hell of a best of 5 so far.
And now we're at that tipping point where ShoWTimE, with the army that was typically overwhelming in numbers, is no longer so overwhelming in numbers. It is tough to compete against the kind of army and the economy that Astrea has. He is going to start to be able to overwhelm his opponent. Disruptors getting picked off for both sides, and it does seem like on one hand ShoWTimE still has a lot of Stalkers alive, but at the end of the day, he is still taking very awkward trades right now.
I mean, he's doing his absolutely best. He's doing his absolute best, and he's definitely hanging in there like a champ. It just does not feel like a fair fight anymore. If we can take a look at the income graph after this skirmish is done, I mean, this is not a fair fight. Astrea is mining 2.4k resources more per minute, so no matter how good ShoWTimE's defense is, it's one of these unfair campaign missions where eventually the AI just has a little too much and you can't defend anymore.
Yeah, that chart looks like my confidence level in ShoWTimE to be able to bring this particular game back. His chances are dwindling as time goes on. And like you said, he's doing a great job, a really impressive job holding on against all odds, but StarCraft is one of those games where it does snowball. As you fall further and further behind, you have fewer options to help defend against things like this.
Look at the probe. The probe is
the one probe, it's staying alive though,
and it's fighting, man. It got some shots up on the Nexus. It's battling the Zealots. It's like, all right, retreat, boys. It's the captain.
That's actually incredible. That
in-game leader.
Is such a hero. Well, Disruptor is going to get picked off over there yet again, but man, Astrea has seriously played his heart out to make it to this point, man. You were talking about this before, and I just feel like it just took him a bit of time to get that experience at these offline events. No. You know, a top 20 finish at Katowice.
The probe is going to warp in a Nexus over here.
Is it?
Or not?
This is the hero probe?
No, I was just thinking, yeah, that's absolutely the hero probe. It's just thinking of the army right now. He's like, our boys need help on the top side. It's like, get over there.
You need me to deploy one more time, Captain?
You guys need that pylon from the animation?
Yo, mate, I got you.
Yeah. All right, Astrea is setting up a bit of a flank. ShoWTimE is running for the hills, losing another important base. Did finally get on top of one of the bases of Astrea, but I think we all know that this is not a fair fight. ShoWTimE is fighting as hard as he can. Astrea has just played magnificent so far throughout this best of 5. Looks like a very, very scary competitor. And we talked about how, you know, if he wins this best of 5, and he's obviously not there yet, he would set a new career best as GG gets called and Astrea takes the 2-1 lead. Maybe he can go a lot further, because the way he's playing right now, it's super impressive.
Another powerful fist bump from Max Angel as he goes up in this series against one of the undisputed best Protoss players in the European scene, if not the world at this point. Astrea is looking formidable, to say the least. He is going to potentially have to face off against Hero if he's able to take out ShoWTimE. And Roddy, his PvP is looking damn good. And I think the coolest thing is that it's not even just because he's thrown out these really one or two one-off cheeky builds and snuck in some wins. His PvP just looks really good overall.
The most amazing thing to me about Astrea is that you can put him in almost any awkward spot and he's like, oh, but I know a way out of this. And it's like that first game already started off very weird as well, but I feel like transitions that are really not supposed to be transitions at all, he kind of finds a way. He's really clever in moving his army around the map, going for certain little pokes and harassments, which just buys him time to get exactly where he needs to get. And the man absolutely thrives in chaos. He's so freaking good at taking fight after fight, and sometimes it feels like, man, he's actually on the receiving end of a bit of a beating here. And then you look at the map, bam, base, base, base. You look at the working count, 86, 89. He doesn't stop. It's a really good showing so far.
I think it's one of my favorite things about Astrea, and ever since even when he was coming up as a sort of amateur player, something I would always credit for him for is that he really did a great job as like a very cognitive player, in the sense that he would think through a lot of situations. He was very open and receptive. He's the kind of person who will go up to a Diamond Leaguer and hear them out on ideas and hear them out and think like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Let's actually play around with that idea. Not because he thinks, oh, well, the Diamond Leaguer is going to be able to teach me all about StarCraft, but he's open-minded from any kind of source about how to play StarCraft, and that's how he comes up with these very interesting and sometimes divergent ways of thinking from the norm.
Yep, and he's also still, despite the fact that he's obviously very eager and he wants to be a real competitor and he wants to go as deep as he can, he still wants to have fun.
Yeah.
Right? That's very important to him. He doesn't necessarily want to play what everybody says is the best. If he doesn't like it, he will find something that's like 98% as good, but if he has a lot more fun, that actually allows him to just perform at a higher level. And I think perhaps that's why he's also able to just listen to everyone, because he's just a lover of the game as well. He seems to be a very happy StarCraft 2 player, and we all know there aren't too many of those.
I don't know. I think we may have seen a downtime content segment where we were just hearing every single player basically saying, yeah, I play this race because we're the most depressed race. And I'm like, oh no.
I like the one of Gabe where he hold up the crying people and he's like, that's me when all the Terran players are doing well. That one got me.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy that. But Astrea, he's just got a positive ball of energy around him. If you ever get a chance to interact with him, especially if you're there in Atlanta, and you know, especially if he's in a good mood after winning this series or something, potentially with one more game on the line there, go say hi to him. He is a super duper friendly ball of energy.
Do you remember the map order?
I do not. No.
I guess we haven't seen Stargazers, we haven't seen Moondance. Hey, is this Moondance actually? They said it's going to be a trio, because we are not allowed to see Moondance. So I guess that meant that Moondance is going to be map number 4. That was a joke they made on the desk. Did you not pay attention to that joke?
You know, I was a little bit busy laughing at the downtime content segment, I think, during that last one. And also fixating on the fact that Loco thought that Astrea was from Texas.
I mean, Texas is pretty big. So.
I had like a trigger moment. I'm like typing up my Team Liquid poster, like, does Loco even know?
Alright, the players are getting ready. They need a little moment, and I can't blame them. I'd be exhausted after 3 games like that. Obviously, not just the fact that it's a stressful situation, but just the games themselves. Like, these are very demanding games. There are just units running around. You have to not just worry about the units you can see, but a lot of invisible units blinking. So I absolutely understand on such a big moment that ShoWTimE says, give me a sec, and maybe even Max Angel needed a little break as well.
Yeah, even though I will say Astrea thrives in chaos, chaotic games are what really drain you of energy, because you're not just saying, all right, here's my build order, here's this me zoning out and just kind of doing what I'm used to. It forces you to think, it forces you to react in ways that you're not necessarily used to and takes you out of that comfort zone. It's really draining.
It absolutely is. In the top left side, indeed, on Moondance, I believe this is the first time we see it on the main stage. We are looking at the main base of the German Protoss, trying to make it into the quarterfinals. Representing Berlin International Gaming, this is ShoWTimE. Still love for ShoWTimE.
A lot of love for that German Protoss, but also I know a lot of people in the crowd cheering on this young man down here in the bottom right-hand side of the map, representing Alpha X Esports, the blue Protoss player, 1 game away from advancing on to the round of 8. He is Astrea.
For anyone who just joined us, is wondering, is this it? After this, are you guys done? Nope, we are only getting started. We have all 4 quarterfinals left, and all 4 of them will be shown on the main stage, and we'll all cover them here. Next up is going to be a PvT between Bonnie and Nightmare. Can't wait to talk about that, because both players have super interesting stories. After that, it will be the great Jonas Sotala, who's going to duke it out in a ZVZ with the GSL code as runner-up Ragnarok. After that, it will be time for that PvP between Hero and the winner of this series. And as appetizer, final series of the day. Our dessert is going to be a TVZ between Solar and Maru. Might be nice for Solar, you know, maybe it's gonna be that late that Maru's like, won't play too much back.
You know what, Kev? I want to believe you. I want to believe that that's the case. But I've been to too many tournaments where that doesn't seem to phase Maru at all. In fact, I believe it did not phase Maru at Valencia when he did it.
But I kind of felt that it did, because like he did it obviously against Raynor in the quarterfinals, and we had a couple of super long games, but it felt like he played with a little bit more urgency in the grand finals against Dark. But that could also just be like stylistic thing, or maybe he's worried about certain things that Dark does, but yeah, I don't know. It has to be, if you talk about the games being draining, like even if you're Maru and you're literally the best Terran player on the planet and you're so damn good at what you do, playing multiple 45-minute TVZs, that has to be very draining.
I have to imagine so, because even though Maru will play a defensive style in those kind of situations, he's not playing a slow style. It is a very fast-paced, very intensive style, regardless of the fact of whether he's being a little bit defensive or not. It is extremely fast-paced, but... Well, we do see on here, on Moondance, one of the few maps that Ben de Muslim Baker would say, oh, thank God, finally a map that doesn't have a high ground over to the natural. And we do see those 2 gateways up on the high ground that have to be built before you start going into that 1 gate expand.
That is such a odd shield battery placement. What a ShoWTimE scouted. That's like the most defensive battery that I've ever seen. I feel like it doesn't even really cover the bottom of your minerals, so against Oracles that is not great. Against Stalkers that are poking you, like if 4 Stalkers would poke you very early on, that's not too great either, because you have to run so far away from the battery.
Basically give up the choke point, right?
Yeah, I don't think it really comes into play, but I'm just kind of surprised by it. And I'm sure there is one diehard ShoWTimE fan that's I just done this at least 7 times before in the 384 games I've seen of ShoWTimE on Moondance, but yeah, I'm used to the battery being a little bit further forward, or
yeah, it'd be interesting to get his thoughts on that at some point, but seems like it's probably not going to play the biggest impact immediately, but Astrea is going to be poking forward with 2 Stalkers warped in from the proxy pylon. Stalkers making their way across the map, and
what a timing.
You know what? Maybe it will.
Yeah, what a timing. And this actually is going to make the sentries somewhat useful, right? Because he's bringing 3 sentries, so we're going to get some old school Wings of Liberty PvP magic here of Stalker Sentry versus Stalker Sentry, and nobody has Blink, and nobody has the ability to run away, and there are no way to, you can actually force with these units away from the battery.
Yeah. That's your way exactly you were talking about is going to play an effect. The Stalkers cannot be healed up over there. 2 Stalkers almost immediately going to end up falling. Astrea almost loses the Stalker, finally does end up losing 1. The Sentry is also getting taken out. Astrea taking some magnificent trades on top of the fact that he's also picking off a couple of workers.
Yep, I mean, that definitely worked out. Astrea can still trade 1 for 1 here, I think, with a little bit of micro. Goes for his Sentry. Now, is outnumbered now, so you kind of need to wait for reinforcements. Trades the Stalk for his Stalker. Now he's got full HP Stalk showing up, but ShoWTimE has the same thing. Nice micro there by D-Mauer in the end. And it does seem that Astrea, I think, has to just disengage at this point. He's always just building probes behind it. And once more, he is the Robo player, while ShoWTimE is the Blink player. There's a lot of surface area in this on this map, though, to blink into the main base, right? If you take a look at the edge of the main base of Astrea, you think there is a lot of potential for ShoWTimE to get some proper value out of the Stalkers if he manages to blink all 4 Stalkers at once into the main base.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is not a guarantee, as we just saw.
And of course, it's important to also remember that all of the sentries also just got picked off for both of the players, so they don't exactly have a lot of scouting information unless Astrea does something like this. You send some Adepts out on the map, but now you're kind of hoping the Adepts don't get caught by any of the Stalkers, and it seems like he is going to be safe for the moment because those Stalkers are headed straight across the map.
If these 7 Stalkers YOLO here in, by the way, before the Immortal is out, that would have been very problematic, but the Immortal pops at an absolutely perfect moment. And how much are these Adepts able to do? Yeah, I think Astrea shouldn't get too carried away. These 2 Adepts have some potential. Anything more than 4 workers and you are very pleased. He already gets 3. Now the shots are a little bit desynced and he's missed targeting. I do think that Astrea could have gotten at least 4 there, but still 3 workers and lost mining time and a recall. Yeah, you're totally okay with that for 2 Adepts.
Yeah, the recall especially is just going to give Astrea so much more time, because now it's not just 2 Stalkers and 1 Immortal, it's going to be another Immortal. It's going to be potentially another warp-in round that's going to be available, and the ShoWTimE is going to have to be a lot more careful with these Stalkers. In fact, he is not even moving out for right now.
Do you think this is one of the games where Astrea might not open up with Blink, but he will actually go charge Archon Zealot?
I could definitely see that. I think it actually would be really good for his style as well.
Well, we are about to find out. We only have 2 Stalkers out on the map at the moment, and it is indeed going to be charged. I like it. It's a tiny... ShoWTimE, I think, has recently used this build quite a few times as well, and especially on Moondance, because from natural to natural, this map feels really small to me. Zombie Grub upstairs is like, it's actually like 1 second slower. I know Zombie Grub, but it's still, like, these pushes arrive, like, you blink twice and they're there, okay? So it's actually one of these maps where if you want to avoid Blink, I think you can kind of get away with it. Blink has a lot of potential, but if this army moves out and ShoWTimE is a split second too late to realize what's happening, he could potentially be in a lot of trouble, man. And we have a Dark Shrine going down as well. ShoWTimE, does he even have a Robo at this point?
Did he just hallucinate Phoenix Scout the Dark Shrine as well? I think did I see something? Yeah, hallucinate Phoenix Scout coming in toward the natural. I believe it caught wind of the Dark Shrine as well.
And it sees all the Zealots here, that's a big scout. You know your opponent is not making Blink Stalkers if they're warping in this many slow Zealots, because that means they're obviously waiting for charge to finish
look
up.
at all the batteries coming down there. ShoWTimE immediately threw down a couple of batteries, some extra pylons over by that 3rd base. He is getting ready for something.
Yep, he's worried because he knows like Stalkers are great in controlling the pace of the game and getting a few pickoffs, but if a powerful army of a couple of Immortals, Zealots with charge, and a few Archons to break force field show up, yeah, you can micro your Stalkers for days, but it just feels that you don't have the right amount of DPS. I can guarantee you that ShoWTimE is definitely pretty concerned about Astrea moving out, but Astrea is not moving out. He's just building probes, he's going up to 4 bases, and it's kind of funny how now Astrea takes a base outside of his naturals. We have 2 Dark Templars running in, and we have a Robo, but we don't have a whole lot of observers, and I think we have no recall at the moment. That has to be on cooldown as well. We did use 1 there, but this is great play by Astrea, my goodness. 3 Dark Templars in 3 different mineral lines. 0 mining. ShoWTimE is in so much trouble here, Fear Dragon. Oh my goodness, it's not stopping.
The 1 observer out in the middle of the map. Additional probes continue to go down. He sends in another DT as the rest of those units were heading around toward the main base. Another DT comes back into the natural. Absolute chaos. Astrea taking a massive supply lead, and it's all workers, Kev.
Oh my god. And everywhere, ShoWTimE is like sending probes from the 3rd to the natural, but then there is still no detection. The Dark Templars are finding an absolutely ridiculous amount of damage. He even saves one of them with the Warp Prism. Non-stop harassment here. Astrea is putting himself in an absolutely amazing spot to make it into the quarterfinals of the DreamHack Masters for the first time in his career. He's dropping a 2nd Robo in a Robo Bay. At this point, I'll almost be like, Astrea, no, keep the game simple for it.
Stay alive. That's the name of the game here. And I mean, it does kind of beg the question, does ShoWTimE just feel like he has to go across the map and do something? You're down almost 30 workers, or do you try to draw it out?
I don't think ShoWTimE has the army to even end it, so ShoWTimE is definitely going to try to macro up. And I feel for Astrea it should actually just be like pedal to the metal. Like, how many gateways does Astrea have right now? Is he short on gates or something? He has only 6, but I would have loved to see him just queue up a Warp Prism, start warping in units, because you just dealt a tremendous amount of damage, and it'd be such a shame to sit back forever up to the point where ShoWTimE gets up to 160, 170 supply, because then ShoWTimE can absolutely still win the game. But I think if Astrea would send it right now, spend all of his money on units, I don't think there's a whole lot ShoWTimE could do about it.
I wonder if Astrea is looking to move out with just 2 or 3 disruptors, because he's going to have a lot of nice timing windows that will just line up for +2 weapons. He's going to have Blink. He's going to have 2 or 3 disruptors in a few moments' time. Even going to have Blink for his DTs if he wants to continue some of that harassment with these DT weapons over here. There still might be a big opportunity and a big window where he's capitalizing on the economy.
As long as he's setting up for something, right?
Yeah.
As long as we are not going to sit back until we max out, even though he's getting awfully close to maxing out, but like, then please go, because you have such a nice little advantage now. And shield batteries are actually not that great, obviously, against disruptors. It's just annoying. Sometimes you make it a bit harder on yourself. Astrea is indeed moving out, was waiting for that +2 to finish up, waiting for Blink on his own Stalkers, and I have no idea how ShoWTimE is supposed to weather this storm. If ShoWTimE survives this, I mean, they have truly improved those walls over in Germany.
Those walls are going to be extra fortified for him to try and survive this. So far, his defense is solid. The force fields locking away this army that does not want to be caught in between or cut in half over here. Disruptor's looking for an angle, and DT's not going to be able to find an angle, but that's a lot of army supply that ShoWTimE has on the south side not participating in this fight.
Yep. ShoWTimE blinks towards the right as there was a misrally disrupted there. I kind of think that Astrea should have had 1 or 2 Archons, right? So you don't have to worry about these force fields. It doesn't matter. It sends a Nova forward, and it does a lot of damage to the Immortal. It blows up the sentries as well.
We're going to start to see these Stalkers trying to force back these Disruptors. One of the Stalkers does get tagged by a Disruptor shot, but they manage to find one kill. The Nexus gets awfully low. It does get picked off. The blink forward there from ShoWTimE. He snipes off 1 Immortal, 2 Immortal, 3 Immortals. He has an Immortal of his own as well, but losing the base is absolutely massive. Astrea already had the economic advantage from the worker supply lead. Now he also has a base advantage.
Astrea is still good by ShoWTimE, though, to be fair.
Yeah.
I think a lesser Protoss would have absolutely rolled over and died already. ShoWTimE knows that his tournament life is on the line. Picks off, I think, a Stalker there. Gets close to a Disruptor, but he's not quite able to get that. Losing a base is a very big deal, but he does still have economy. And as long as you have an economy, you can still get closer to maxing out. And that's going to give him a tiny chance. There isn't a whole lot in this game to be hopeful of for ShoWTimE. Obviously down in bases, down in tech, down in upgrades. But he still has an army and he has some income. He has a bit of money in the bank. There is a little bit of hope.
ShoWTimE definitely not going to be giving up just yet. He still feels like he has some opportunities, some advantages he can take advantage of. We're going to see, snipe off on the Observer is going to hurt. In these situations, having a bit of extra vision for those Disruptors makes a massive difference.
Yeah, it really does. I do feel that ShoWTimE needs to get out on the map. Because if you're just sitting back and you're just waiting to receive Disruptor shot after Disruptor shot, I don't think that's going to be great. I understand that maybe he's worried if we lose the army, he can't rebuild it anymore. Snipes that Disruptor. My goodness, as Astrea does blink forward and is going to use more Novas to just push ShoWTimE back further and further. ShoWTimE has done a great job, man, and he's actually only down a few units. Blinks forward there, finds another Disruptor, and he finds another one as that one is misrelic. Maybe Astrea getting a bit nervous. He knows how close he is to ending this, and obviously everything is still perfect for Astrea, but at this point he has 97 probes, which means that the max army supply is going to work with is 103. It's risky, right? Because that's not that much.
Every second that goes by from here on out, unless there's big army trades, Astrea is actually going to have a smaller and smaller army compared to ShoWTimE, because Astrea is nearly maxed out. ShoWTimE still has a little bit of breathing room to continue making additional units, like you were saying. +1 air weapons also on the way there for Astrea, just getting started up. A Stargate on the way. It seems like Astrea is thinking about a transition. TTs go unnoticed for the moment. We'll see if ShoWTimE is going to be dealing with that on the other side of the map. Love the focus fire down on the pylon and getting those cannons.
Rico has been used. ShoWTimE needs to get the hell out of there as he cannot afford to lose too many units. And now he's going to do what Astrea was doing earlier on Inside and Out, and that is just utilize the mobility of having this many Stalkers. I wonder what Astrea is going to go for. You think it's just 4 carriers? I mean, obviously if you get like 4 or 5 carriers, your Disruptors are going to be godlike as the Dark Templars blink past the initial set of defenses, but it seems like there are plenty of cannons. We should have an Observer coming in somewhere. Astrea is going to try to force ShoWTimE to fight this army in the top side of the map as well. And Astrea clearly with his great economy is just looking for trades. Anything that's close to a decent trade is a great trade for Astrea.
I'm amazed by how well ShoWTimE is controlling this, considering he's dealing with DTs and Zealot run-bys and also splitting versus Disruptors. He's focus firing them down as well, but Astrea comes in with overwhelming numbers of Stalkers on this top right-hand side. This Nexus is going to go down, hit those DTs. They didn't all get picked off because ShoWTimE had to focus on those Disruptors that were on his front lines.
Yeah, there were like 7 of them, so he had to avoid shots non-stop, and it was hard for him to also take care of all the Dark Templars roaming around. A big connection there, and Astrea knows it. I think he has done pretty much everything that he needs to do to advance into the round of 8 for the first time in his career. And ShoWTimE is going to try to make a Hail Mary play. One last counterattack, try to create some chaos. But I feel like 1 or 2 Novas is all it takes. Yeah, I think he doesn't want to lose those Stalkers. He wants to jump on the Disruptors. Here we go.
Disruptor is going to be going off as Blink was already used. A handful of those Stalkers for ShoWTimE are falling. The supply does not lie. 170 supply versus 120. ShoWTimE is going to stay alive for a little bit longer, but a lot of army supply in favor of Astrea now.
Everyone in Atlanta can see it. That's looking at the stage. If you look at the webcam, you see it too. GG gets called, and Astrea moves into the quarterfinals.